One of the most liberating days of my life came on the day that I passed my driving test. I got home shattered and went straight to bed, only to wake up a few hours later and find out that my parents had already insured me on their car. They handed me the keys and said, "Want to go for a drive?" So I slammed in the mix CD of driving tunes that I'd made for my mum and hit the open road. It was a beautiful summer's day. Meatloaf was blaring, the windows were down, the wind was in my hair. Honestly, I don't think I've ever felt quite that exhilarated since. So, in this video, I want to try and capture the essence of that feeling and show you some songs that might take you there as well. So this is 10 songs for flying down the motorway, windows down. Number 10, Highway Tune by Greta Van Fleet. Now, I know it's a little bit on the nose to have a song that literally has the word highway in the title as the first song on this list, but I feel like it's actually very aptly named. It's got a very kind of like fun, pushing, driving presence the entire way through. These big soaring vocals, that opening note, that big, oh, that seems to go on forever. I know people have fun kind of comparing them to Led Zeppelin and taking the piss a bit, and it's an easy comparison to make, I do get it, but I don't think it minimizes the actual skill required to do that. I think also the riff itself is this very kind of cyclical thing. It bounces around a lot. Dong dee dong dee dong dee bidaloo. It runs through a lot of this song, and I think that really helps with this kind of like pushing, driving narrative. It's just interesting as well, because I know that it's, again, the easy comparison is Led Zeppelin, but that riff on its own more kind of goes with like some kind of country, maybe, to me. It's got a bit more of a kind of twang to it, which I guess makes sense, because again, as far as I'm aware, the brothers that make up the majority of Greta Van Fleet kind of lived in a comparatively rural town where they grew up on the music that their dad gave them, hence why they sound like Led Zeppelin. As time has gone on, their sound has matured for better or for worse. But this song in particular is actually not my favorite track on this album, but I think it has that most freeing feeling to it. I also do have a legitimate mental connection with a bit of, my own life of driving back from a scuba diving trip in Cornwall, and again, windows were down, the sun was blasted, we listened through the entirety of this album as I was really into it. It was a good year for music that time, and yeah, I don't know, the feeling that gave me was extremely, freeing. The way that the guitar and the bass kind of interact, the guitar's quite trebly, it kind of stays at the top the most time, and then actually the drums and the bass do a lot to kind of keep this, they're fairly repetitive, but in a good way, because it services the song. They have this ba, 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 going on through most of the time, and then there's this sweet, sweet moment just before you hit that chorus again, every time, where it drops out, just everything apart from that dung dee dee lung. And you get straight back in with that massive big note again. It just lets your heart kind of stop out for a second and then pushes you back out. It kind of reinvigorates that feeling. So I really like that song. I really love that entire EP. I know that they've kind of grown with it, but I don't know whether it's nostalgia or what it is, but I am very, very fond of From the Fires, and it just perfectly encapsulates the mood I'm going for with this list. So definitely include that on your mixtape. Number 9, Die to Live by Volbeat, featuring Neil Fallon from Clutch. The singer from Volbeat has got a very interesting voice. There aren't many people that sound like him. It's kind of quite good. He has a good range on him, and he definitely has this big kind of bellowing presence to it. And when you put it in the context of a song like Die to Live, it does a lot. This song has got a kind of almost big band setup to it. There's some woodwind, there's a keyboard player, they have an entire sort of blues inspired, they're literally doing 12-bar blues. I imagine the entire song is in 12-bar blues, kind of celebratory instrumental section at one point. It's great. But it's got this kind of literally boogie woogie, which is a repeated refrain in there, which just gets under my skin. There's a little moment where he says, "Dance the boogie woogie." Dance the boogie woogie, let's find the boogie. And he does a little bit of motion in the music video too, and I don't know, it really captures that kind of joyous, kind of reveling in the music, but it's quite fast paced because Volbeat are obviously, a pseudo metal band at times, and Neil Fallon is also quite shouty in his vocals, so it's definitely got this kind of more fast paced, frenetic grit to it. but it's got this very elating feeling that kind of like runs through the entire thing. I mean, I think the lyrics probably help because it literally is about, well, yeah, you know, like living recklessly and dangerously and having a good time, right? The repeated refrain is constantly shouted, let it burn. They say that phrase many, many times. It's genius to have layered Neil Fallon's voice on top of that specific bit. Like, he gets one verse, which I love, and then he kind of like comes in for some of the more gang vocal stuff, but that kind of like raw grit that Neil Fallon has contrasts so nicely with the far more clean vocals from the guy from Volbeat. So they kind of, when they merge together, they really, really have this kind of thick sound. It reminds me of the anniversary edition of Hellraiser, the Aussie song, where they had Lemmy's vocals on it too. They blend in a similar way, which I really, really like. It always makes me chuckle. If you know what you're looking for, Neil Fallon is in the background at the beginning of the video, waiting his turn. You're just kind of like there, observing, leaning on a sort of amp sort of out of the way, and then when it becomes his verse, he kind of saunters in. He does this kind of strange wobble as he's going, and they have a tracking shot that follows him. God, that verse is so satisfactory. It's just frenetic. It never drops its energy. It's singing of, you know, rebellion and doing stupid stuff, and it's got this beautiful blend of these voices. The guitar work is, you know, nothing's going crazy, but it's got the, you know, the tones are nice and clean. The production is tight. It just brings this euphoric forward momentum, and I swear to God, you stick that song on loudly when you're driving, you will not stop yourself from tapping the steering wheel and shaking your hips, head, shaking your everything. I don't know. I love it, and I feel like it goes very, very well in this context. Number 8, Magellan's Expedition by Alestorm. I definitely just had to Google how to pronounce that, and I've definitely been saying it wrong for the entire time I've known that song.
Magellan.
Anyway, what a banger. Alestorm are the gift that just continue to give. They're on what, like album 9 or 10 at something ridiculous at this point, all making pirate-themed metal. And you know what? In my opinion, they have not released one album that doesn't have at least a good track on it, often many. And one of the more recent albums, Seventh Rum of a Seventh Rum, of course, has got Magellan's Expedition on it, and oh, the feeling of adventure that that song imparts upon you is otherworldly. Obviously, because they are a metal band, it's pretty fast-paced the entire way through. It's nice thrashing heavy guitars, there's a lot of drums going on, all the fills, all the time. What sets it apart is it's got this most amazing synth riff that kicks in at the beginning, and after every chorus is ba ba la da 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 da. It is an inspired riff. It doesn't quite make me think Pirates of the Caribbean, but you know, it's on the way. Pirates of the Caribbean, but less like PG and Disney. It's got quite a militaristic feel to it, but again, just so elatory. And when that is combined with the just like big gang vocals that you get in the choruses, again, it's a pretty common Alestorm trope, but I think it's just executed perfectly in this song. They've all got sort of fun, very hearty voices, and they all do that. But more Scottish, I think, probably. It just sits so nicely together on top of that riff. It's just, I don't know, everything is so archetypical of their sort of weird little mini subgenre, I guess, but it's just executed flawlessly. There is also an impeccable key change. Towards the end, we think we're going to get into a kind of bridge middle 8 thing. We have a nice solo there. There's a kind of like more shouted vocal, kind of gang vocal thing going on there. Again, it's got this kind of feeling of a crew, and the lyrics are quite emotive there too. Alestorm can be silly, but you know, let's quest into the heart of the setting sun is actually quite nice, emotive, sort of striking language. And then bop for a second, just get a couple of little hits, and then whoop, there we go, up a couple of tones, and now we have a nice key change. and then it moves in straight into the chorus again, all these big gang vocals, and then at the very end, after you get that last chorus, it's where it hits its like epicenter. It's like eye of the tornado of the energy of this song, and that riff, that damn trumpet riff comes in again, but now it's being backed up. Oh, I sound like a real choral choir. They are doing a kind of like vocalization version of that riff, lay it all on top of each other. Everyone's, all the guitars are going at full whack, the drums are going crazy, and that just coming out there. Oh, the feeling of like empowerment. I just want to blast down there. And again, stick that on in the car, especially if you're driving somewhere maybe that you've not been before and it's going to be a bit of an adventure, the sort of like getting there. You're like, oh, okay, now we're going to do this motorway for like 70 miles an hour, but it's exciting. That is this feeling, just the whole way down. I do love Ailstorm, but for that particular feeling I'm chasing, you can't really go better than this song. Number 7. Right on Time by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Of course, there was going to be a Chili Peppers song on this list. I genuinely spent a large chunk of my, admittedly very young youth thinking there was a good chance the Chili Peppers were in fact the only band in the world, and that love for them has definitely never left me. Right on Time is possibly a comparatively obscure deep cut. It's right at the tail end of Californication, and it's, it's short and it is punchy. I mean, it comes in at 1 minute 53, so it's, they get quite a lot into a small amount of space, but like always with a Chili Pepper song, it's the way that bass carries this song forward. So it's a song basically made up of two fairly distinct sections. We've got the verses and the choruses, like most things, but it literally only pings between the two of those things, more or less. So we've got the opening verse, which is very, very chaotic. Just straight away, absolutely no, sort of like warming you up there. Kiedis is doing, borderline more shouty vocals, which is something he did more often then, but even still, there's a difference between more spoken wordy, rappy stuff, which is quite common for the Chili Peppers, but actually shouted like he does in the intro for this song, fairly rare, right? So you got that, combined with this very, very frenetic bass line. It bounces up and down the entire way. Dun, 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 dun. It's very, very rhythmic. And again, one of the special things I think really, really makes the Chili Peppers work, especially in the earlier days, is the simpatico between Chad Smith and Flea is so, underrated, probably not true, but it's something that I don't think is talked about enough. Those two are so perfectly in sync. It's amazing. Literally, the rhythms of this bass riff are not normal by any stretch of the imagination. It's very dun dun dun, 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 there's lots of sustained notes and offbeats and stuff like that, but the drum beats fall perfectly every single time there's a rhythmic part of the bass too. It just creates this very in sync feeling, and you've got Frusciante at the top there with a quite high chordy bit, kind of like taking up the top register. You've got Kiedis shouting. It's all very much in your face. If you are driving and it is loud, my god, you will catch yourself just kind of the whole way through. It's really, really something. But as quickly as that section starts, it just completely flips when he gets to the choruses, and that's the bit that really rustles me jimmies and gets me feeling all warm inside. It does actually lose a bit of the energy. Pretty much all of the instruments go to half-time in terms of the way that they're counting, so everything slows down. The tempo itself doesn't change, but everything does slow down. And then you get this phenomenal bass, hammering. I'm not a bassist, but you can tell he's doing that thing, and he just bounces around in octaves, but it's just so perfect. He does it so quickly that it kind of gives the impression of both notes being played at the same time. It's guys, see, I can't do that without moving my neck a little bit, but it's just that particular bass lift. Listen to it for a second. It's just so intoxicating. And then that mixed in with the fact that Kiedis' vocals kind of like slow down, they become more melodic, and then you get some Frusciante backing vocals in there, which again is always a bit of a treat when it comes to the Chili's. It's just become so legato, and you get one repeat of it the first time, and then just bam, straight back into that verse again. It's all very on your face, everything's going crazy, again, and then the second time you go around to that, you get a second version of it, and that one So you get 2 repeats even, and the second repeat has got like a slightly more developed vocal line over it. Frusciante is like firing way further up in terms of like the octaves, and you know he's allowing himself to kind of ad-lib and add a little bit more to it with each time. The way that the song bounces between those 2 segments, I don't know what it is, but it just gives me this feeling of like liberation and unleashing these feelings. It kind of like itches both scratches of being like, I want to kind of headbang, and also like I really love just singing these big notes and kind of bellowing it out with just that phenomenal bass line going underneath it. You know, this song is not that complicated. It's only, like I said, it's only under 2 minutes long, but both of those sections just work so perfectly, and I don't think that song has ever come on in the car when it's been on shuffle or whatever, and I've not subconsciously noticed I'm reaching for the twiddler, for the dial, I'm turning it up, I'm starting to shout. It's just fantastic. I mean, I could probably fill this entire list with Chili Pepper songs, to be honest, but for interest's sake, this is the one I'm going with. I really think you should give it a chance. Number 6. Miss Alissa by the Eagles of Death Metal. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Eagles of Death Metal are a side project-ish of Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age and like 1,000 other things, but this one is just him as a duo with his childhood friend Jesse Hughes. Jesse does the guitar and the vocals, Josh does the bass and the drums, Jesse tours with the band and Josh does not. But anyway, this is off their second album, and to be fair, back in their day, they were great. They have a really, really fun kind of like boogie woogie, I guess is a phrase I'm going to continue to come back to this video, but kind of boogie woogie, just good old fashioned rock and roll-y kind of thing, you know. There's a lot of emphasis on dancing, and especially when you're kind of like going for this more liberal feeling of joy and just expressing yourself, that kind of stuff, that kind of music where you just can't stop but like shaking your ass a little bit, that is the sweet spot. And Miss Alissa is, I think, their best example of it. That song is great. Again, it's not long. That song is a sum total of 2 minutes and 39 seconds, so a little bit longer than Right on Time, but not by much. And again, comparatively simplistic. There's one riff. It's a really good riff. It's just a pretty classic blues rock inspired, quite fast paced, and it just from the get-go of this song with the drum intro, you can tell it's going to be frenetic. Just the way that guitar line builds in, you just get that the first in one pan that ear starts off with that riff, and then it doubles up sort of halfway through the first repeat, and then that's basically it. That's your stuff. There are a couple of very well placed claps at various points, which I find quite appealing as well. And the rest of it is just down to taking and removing and adding and subtracting various musical elements to it, and the vocal hook is essentially it. Honestly, the vocals aren't even that complicated. It's just well executed. They are charismatic. That energy, that buoyancy. You know, I try so hard, but I think you don't see because I'm moving so fast. We call it rock and roll. The melody is fine. He sings in this like quite high, kind of falsetto-y thing. It's kind of weird. I would be curious to hear what the isolated vocals for this sound like. But there's one moment in the song. Well, there's several moments, but there is one moment in the song that just gets me. It's another one of those musicgasm moments. It's after the first chorus where basically everything drops out for a second. You just have the guitar riff, the drums are gone, just a little clap and the guitar riff only in one ear for a second, and you get the first half of the second verse just with that. And then after that, you know, like one little section of that verse, everything kicks back in again. You get a big open with the cymbals, and the drums come back in again. And just that little moment, oh my god. You know, I feel so smooth, I'm always struggling with emotion. Make the little girls dance, 'cause I'm rock and rolling. It really doesn't matter that you're hard. I can't help but shake the bloody hips. If I'm in the car, I can just hear myself just like slowly revving forward as this is going. I'm putting my foot in the accelerator, and I probably shouldn't be. And then it all kicks back in. I'm like, yeah! Just pushing forward. It's so good. The chorus is simple, but it's easy to sing along with. That's all you need. Words like dance, you know, they're sort of like go into the subconscious, I think. And then again, you've got another section sort of like later on in the song where things kind of drop out. The guitar stops doing the riff and it kind of becomes a little bit more kind of like scatty. There's a load of weird like vocal overdubs of kind of like ad-libbed, mostly talking. It feels like they're just... Yeah, I don't know, this did like a couple of takes where Josh and Jesse just sort of stood in the studio and just kind of like talk shit whilst they were playing the song. How does that feel? I don't know, but it's quite appealing. It makes you feel like you're kind of like part of the gang, part of the crew, which is nice. So that kind of kicks in a lot. And then again, that riff finally fires back up again for that last chorus, and it just brings you home. You know, this absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Rather than going through silly things like having to have a fully structured bridge or a B section or anything like that, they just take it away for a little bit and then they give it back to you. It's fun, it's simple, it's awesome. And there's just this moment at the end when everything cuts off, and I always try and time it, and like 99% of the time I get it wrong, but I'm a kind of person who, if you couldn't tell, likes to sing along to stuff, and it just goes, the last line is, and dance! And then it does like an indeterminate amount of time, and then suddenly you hear Jesse go, you ain't dancing.
Now dance! Huh. You ain't dancing?
I have a lot of fun with that song. It just puts a smile on my face. To be fair, like pretty much all of the Eagles of Death Metal does. I would love to see some more music released from them with the two of them, because they've not released an album, like a proper album, in like 10 years. So I'm champing at the bit for more, because I thought Zip It Down was great. But yeah, if you haven't heard of them or that song, I really, really encourage you to go looking for it, because if you just want to get everybody on the dance floor moving and swaying and jigging, this song will absolutely achieve that. Number 5. I Am Free by the Dandy Warhols. This is another comparatively deep cut of a band that is very, very personal to me. I've been listening to the Dandy Warhols for the majority of my life. This one comes off the album This Machine, which was released a fairly long time ago at this point. But honestly, by Dandy Warhol standards, was sort of the first album that I think maybe didn't have any big singles. Like me as a Dandy's fan, I loved it, but I'm not really sure that, you know, this was sort of the beginning of them starting to have a little bit of a social decline. But this song is the song, my personal go-to when it comes to feeling liberated. Again, anecdotally, I can very, very distinctly remember that the last time I ever had to sit down and do an exam at school, the day I finished that exam, I came home, I put that song on very loud as I took off my school uniform for the first time, and the catharsis I got from that is something that has been seared into my memory ever since. I am free. There's no one tells me what to be, 'cause I know who I am, and I am free. The song is quite upbeat. It's kind of like got this fun, sort of slightly janky feel to it, as a lot of the songs on this album did. It's acoustic based, as again a lot of the Dandies from that time was, but you know, it's got one decent-ish riff that does do the majority of the work for it, but it's just the lyrics are this repeated refrain. The actual term, I am free, repeats in this song many, many times. Dandies also often do these big, thick soundscape kind of songs. Not so much with this one. The backing vocals only really come in the chorus, and they're quite minimal, but they're very effective. They add this extra kind of like rich melodic layer to it. There are lyrics kind of interesting, like, you know, they say payback's a bitch, it's a bitch you've got to make your peace with. Things like that. I don't know why. The lyrics in this song really strike hard as like kind of nice lyrics for kind of like sort of an ethos to live your life by in some ways. And when you've got this sort of like combination of the expression of freedom really, really kind of like mixed in and talked about in the same conversation as musical expression, it really does kind of elate everything. And then as the song progresses, you end up getting a brass section, which is really, really good. It remains a feature for the rest of the song. It's, again, not too bombastic. It mostly repeats the same kind of refrains. It reinforces the chords as they go. A trumpet and a saxophone. When they was kind of like doing this ba 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 kind of feeling, while you've got the repeated refrain of "I am free" just listed at you, it really does give you this liberated feeling, just winding those down, windows down, like I said in the title, and just letting the hair go in your wind, and really feeling like for a moment it's just you and the music and motion, and that is it. And I find that to be very, very therapeutic, which is why I kind of keep this song for special occasions. Number 4. Love is the Law by the Seahorses, the sort of almost unremembered chapter of Britpop history, and a very, very strong one. You know, obviously John Squire, the guitarist from the Stone Roses, has a reputation for being a rather easy fella to work with, which for some reason resulted in the Stone Roses breaking up, and so he needed something to do. So he formed the Seahorses, which also only lasted for one album, but what an album it is. It's this big, elatory, kind of like, I know it's an easy comparison to make, but it really is stylistically somewhere between the Stone Roses and, you know, a more traditional Britpop band, your Blurs, your Oasis, that kind of stuff, right? Right from the beginning, that guitar riff, it's very picky, it's very cyclical, it falls up and down. It has a lot of up and down the scales. It kind of makes you feel like you're anticipating the next time it's going to go around. It's got this very driving feel to it. In fact, pretty much the entire way through this song, it's not got loads of layering on it. It is like two guitars, a bass, and a drums, vocalist and a little bit of backing vocals. That's it. It's pretty lo-fi setup, which is nice because it's actually got a very thick sound the whole way through. The guitars do a lot of picky chord work higher up in the octaves. They kind of leave the low EQ spectrum for the bass, which is there just bringing everything down. You know, the drums and the bass, they're not particularly complicated, apart from some little areas we'll go into in a second where they are kind of allowed to shine. But generally speaking, they're just holding that beat, pushing it forward, providing everything a rock. And then you've just got Chris Helm singing over the top, and there's just something about his vocal delivery. It's so joyous. It conveys this cheeky, chappy, we're just the boys, we're just the young'uns running around, we're having fun. It's kind of like not malicious or mean-spirited. We're just cheeky chappies, right? And there are some very, very entertaining lyrics in there. The first one that jumps out at me in verse 2, you've got Mad Lizzie Crumbs, blind cobbler's thumbs were a sight to behold. She was a rum old slapper and we always tried to get her pants off when she phoned.
Mad Lizzie Crumbs, blind cobbler's thumbs were a sight to behold. She was a rum old slapper and we always tried to get her pants off when she phoned.
I know, just the way that they talk around it, they could have just said, oh, actually, maybe I shouldn't just say what that says when you're taking away the analogy from it. You get my point, right? Like, there are ways of saying things that are kind of blunt, and there are very flowery ways of, especially with sort of like English slang and dialogue and stuff like that, to kind of get around stuff. So you've got, you know, she was a rum old slapper is not something, I mean, I feel like if you were to play that to an American or you know, honestly, people who aren't from specifically England, it might take a second to infer what that is talking about. But that is not the best one. The best one is the beginning of verse 3. Just what a mental image that conjures, you know? I'm picturing John Squire and Chris and the rest of the band all pegging it being the optimal term here, pegging it down the alleyway, and there's just strap-on Sally chasing after them, bounce, 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 bounce. It conjures this, like, very funny, charming, moving forward kind of imagery to me. It's just perfect. And the way that the song itself, the writing, the instrumentation, it all just contributes to this really positive feeling. It kind of gives this like joy to be alive to it almost. And then the chorus just explodes. It's to be fair, also very clever, because in the verses the lyrics are, as we've discovered, quite conversational in style, right? The quite a lot of syllables are being fit into each verse, right? Because they're trying to get in these big flowery languages. And then we get to the chorus where everything slows down, the vocals soar up, they start going much higher, he's singing more, right? And everything suddenly stretches out. Now that first note, that it lasts for a while, but because it's in contrast to everything else, and it's the same with the guitars go from doing this picky noodly thing to just hitting these big clean chords, and there's backing vocals that come in. I believe the backing vocals are basically only present in that chorus, and they're not too intense, they're just perfectly mixed right at the back, right in there, just to really elevate it up. Nothing gives euphoria like an in the background or something, right? It's this big, anthemic, stadium-filling chorus. It's just, love is the law. It just makes me feel good. It just makes me want to roll the windows down, like this video says, and let the wind blow my hair out and just enjoy being alive. It's a song that will always put me in a good mood, and I'm hoping that after listening to this, you'll go out and listen to it, and it will do the same for you. Number 3, Turborider by Reckless Love. The first note I have got written on my phone when I was writing notes about this was, this is a fucking stupid song, but I love it. It is this weird, like, neo-glam feel to it. In fact, when did this song come out? Oh, it's only 4 years old, so yeah, absolutely neo-glam. And it's got this kind of like quite strange, very, very synth-heavy sound the entire way through. Like, one of the first things I also read was that the drum tones used are ridiculous. Like, in the opening, they've got a very, very OTT intro, lots of synth layering and drum rolls, and the drum rolls using the toms are just so stupid. Objectively, they're fine. It's just the tones they choose to use. They sound like little laser sound effects if you're running around in Quasar, which it turns out, I mean, almost certainly is an intentional decision, right? And it's all coming together to create this image, but it just makes me chuckle every time I hear that stuff. But, you know, I will say that the pace that is set by the drums and the guitar riff, which is also very good in the intro, is this, again, kind of like very jumpy. It kind of like bounces around, and then we just go straight in, head on into the verses, and the drums and the bass, which is also dubiously toned to the point where I wonder whether or not it's a synth completely or not. I'm not sure, but either way. But they just keep this relentless, just the entire way through the film. There are a couple of sections where things drop out, but even then, the pace does not really change. It just relentlessly pushes forward. He's got a fantastic voice for the delivery. It's very, obviously, it's glammy. Everything is glammy. The way it's presented is glammy. The way that they look, the sort of blonde hair, the ridiculous outfits. Every single member of that band definitely tours with their own gigantic fan, right, that blows their hair back for you. But his voice is excellent. I don't know how well in the year of 2026 they can do this one live, because it's quite demanding. They have some really, really clever use of texture in the song. It starts in the intro with that dunk, dunk, the way that the sort of drums and the other guitar isolate and pick up on those offbeat notes as they're coming in. But there's another one which I really, really like. I don't think I've ever heard a song do this before, but like just before the lead guitar comes in, so you've got that riff coming in, and then you get a shredded little guitar bit, and they do just like, and it sounds like the song is glitching out. I think maybe the first time I heard this song, I was like, is that right? It's very clever. It definitely does convey this kind of like digital feeling, but almost of crashing, right? It helps to sell the movement that this song carries with it. But, you know, I understand that, of course, putting it on a list about driving songs, yeah, it's like Highway Tune, and that it's literally about driving to some degree. But, you know, it does do a good job of conveying that feeling. The chorus is, again, very, very satisfying. It's this big, open sound, much like some of the other songs on this list. The guitars go from being picky to doing a sort of more sustained power chord thing. The tone they have on that bass, I still don't know whether it's real or not, but it's very sort of like warms the cockles, big, deep, rich, synthy. You know, you feel like if you turn that one all the way up and sit on the speaker, you will have your eyeballs like vibrated out of your head.
More electric than before, a running hybrid to the core, and feeling on eternal fire.
When I'm driving, it's one of the few moments where you can really just crank the volume up and not feel like you're annoying other people. Unless you're driving with the windows down through a suburban area, don't do that, it sucks. But if you're on the motorway or whatever, you can really get that bass up to the point where you're like, oh, I'm going to find the brown note fairly soon if I'm not careful. And that is fun. And this song is really, really good for it. And it's just so camp. There's like a couple of moments where it breaks down, like in the bridge section, where he does a whole like stunning and elusive.
Stunning and elusive, flesh and carbon fiber.
Just watching him in the video, like voice that over and so lip sync to it, it's very funny. It just makes me chuckle. It makes me this whole song makes me chuckle, but it also makes me go, which, you know, is good. We like both things. We like chuckling and we like headbanging. So, you know, the whole thing is good. It's just stupid, but in the best possible way. And, you know, like Love Is the Law, just puts a big old smile on your face if you're there with the accelerator starting to go a little bit. You'll have fun. I really recommend sticking this one on. It will definitely make you smile. Number 2. Train True, Lennie song by Blue Oyster Cult. This band are one of my favorite bands ever, but the longevity is insane. I don't think the average person realizes that Blue Oyster Cult released an album in 2020, a good album, a long album, a heavy album. The Simple Remains is awesome, and might I remind you, this band formed in 1967. They've got no business releasing stuff like this in 2020, and yet they did. The whole album is great, but of the tracks on this album, this song is my favorite. It is so silly. It's so tongue-in-cheek. It's so self-aware. And above all else, it's like musically quite complicated and interesting in a way that you don't hear very often. It's like got several quite distinct sections to it that, you know, they feed into each other in a way that doesn't really feel like they should be able to. I mean, it starts off with this, you know, train noise, like where setting the scene, because the lyrics for the entire thing are very, very conversational the whole way through. It's telling this story, and it's very endearing. It's telling the story of this man who apparently seems to be sort of deemed an idiot by pretty much everyone around him, but he sort of like has this moment where he realizes he wishes to be with this girl and he can't find her, so he ends up getting a job at the trains because he figures he's going to find her because she went on the... I can't quite piece that one together, but either way, he does eventually find the love of his life, and they embrace, and it's all very good. But that is the story, and there are some fun lyrics on it, just like... It's kind of charming, it's disarming, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of wholesome in the same way, but it sort of goes into this quite heavy chorus. I mean, heavy isn't the right word, because it kind of takes this, like, kind of hillbilly change to it. Everything goes like, it kind of has this shuffle to it, right? Which, again, I think is actually very emotive of talking about the trains. And then suddenly you get this like quite heavy riff that kind of breaks up the sections. It's da da do 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 do. It's got a quite a chunky tone on it. And then you get to my favorite part, the bridge. And the bridge for this song is amongst my favorite bridges I've ever heard, ever. I couldn't even fully explain to you quite why it hits me in the way it does, but it's one of those moments I describe as an eargasm, a musicgasm, where I can listen to that entire song through multiple times just so that I can get that moment of euphoria when that chorus comes in. It's, again, it comes from quite a kind of like staccato, quite like rapid-paced sort of timing when it comes to both the verses and the choruses. This shuffly thing that goes the whole way through, and with the vocals, and then suddenly the guitar just does this, it just lets that chord riff out, and just the way that is delivered, it's just so satisfying, and it kind of like has this slow drop down, there's feelings, and it just kind of goes along at the same time there. You know, the harmony kicks in at the same time. You just have this guitar who does this little halfway through this proper classic rock moment that, God, I mean, I'm just going to play it to you because it is sublime. This pre-chorus is sublime.
Feelings are somewhat symptomatic of societal equations that could form electric static. He said, son, I don't think you have much of a brain. I said, you gotta have a brain when you're working for the train.
And then, yeah, we go back to the chorus. It essentially just kind of cycles around these various sections, but they're just so well achieved. It's got pace through it the entire way through. It's got charm. It's funny. It's clever. The toning is good. I mean, it sounds very much like different to the Reckless Love Song, and the fact that everything sounds super analog. Those drums really do sound like they're being hit by somebody. Every part plays its part perfectly. The lead guitar lines, they're doing the thing that Blue Oyster Cult do a lot in their music, where the lead guitar line is not really following much of the way of the chord, not the chord structure, but the sort of riff or anything. It's just noodling. It's finding gaps everywhere to sort of like fill in and kind of like almost do a sort of duet with the lead vocals, which is, I think, a really nice signature. It's a proper classic rock trope to have this guitar line kind of like weave in and out and sort of like bridge sections together and stuff like that. So that's really nice. You've got your bass line, which, you know, fairly understated. It's not mixed particularly high, but actually it does quite a lot to sort of like give it that kind of weird shuffle feeling. The dong 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 dong. It's got this kind of like wandering blues inspired bass line, which again just contributes to the whole thing, having this kind of hustle, this pace to it, but it's just such a good natured song. I mean, the other songs on this album are very ridiculous in various other ways. It's a very exaggerated album. It's all very kind of like character driven, which I love. That kind of stuff just gets me perfectly. So this song, it will definitely put a smile on your face. It will definitely have you shuffling along while you're driving, kind of like feeling like there's some sort of like wholesome purpose to the destination that you are seeking. But really, just listen to the whole album. The whole album is amazing. Blue Oyster Cult deserve a lot of credit for cranking that one out at this point in their careers. Number 1, Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. I mean, I have to preface this by saying I'm extremely biased. This is one of my favorite songs ever on one of my favorite albums ever. I've got very distinct childhood memories, and to be fair, this actually does apply to Blue Oyster Cult as well, of, you know, being a sort of 4 or 5-year-old in my parents' living room, being given access to my dad's record collection, his vinyls, and seeing the album artwork for albums like Agents of Fortune, and more importantly, like Bat Out of Hell, and just being obsessed with that, and being able to put it up there, and finally working out how the record player worked, and being shown how to do it in such a way that didn't damage the records, and it's, oh god, just being able to run around the room obsessing over this song was just such a formulative part of my childhood. In fact, my cousin, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me telling you, is blind, and as a child, she used to sing in a sort of disabled youth group choir, and Meatloaf did a gig in the area around that, and he invited this choir to come and sing backing vocals with him on stage, which was a huge moment for my cousin. My uncle and aunt got to go and meet, you know, them at the venue and stuff like that. Apparently he was very nice, so he's always been like a bit of a hero to me and my family, and this song, just honestly, the older I get, the more I adore it. It's just art. The entire thing is theatre, which I'm sure if you've heard it once you will know, but just, I mean, it's like a 9.5-minute classic full of sections and these crazy big vocals, this big eclectic band. You know, it takes like 10 people live to do the song justice. The piano line that weaves its way through is so important. Just the opening, you start off with a very big kind of a bombastic guitar lick, and then it just opens out, and then you just got this like very like plinky piano line, but actually that piano line roots most of the verses in this song, and it gives it somewhere to go. The piano line and the guitar line just, or the lead guitar line at least, just work so perfectly together, and they are used perfectly in conjunction with the story the song is telling. And again, of course, it's a song about love, it's a song about passion, and more importantly, it's a song about riding a motorbike, and that is awesome. There's so many revving sound effects being played out through the entire thing, but they're perfectly implemented. They never get too much, because sometimes I can have issues with songs that overuse sound effects in them. Sometimes they're very well placed. The occasional whip crack is always appreciated, but sometimes they get a little bit in the way of the music. Not in this case. The revs are always perfect. They sort of like are used to bring the sections, you know, to transition into each other. You have a slower section, then you get a, and then the drums start to kick up at the same time, and then all of a sudden you're blasting at full cylinders again. Meatloaf's voice is just next level. He is so theatrical and tapped in. I mean, just like from a general, you know, singing perspective, from like a technical standard, he's great. The vibrato is strong, he's powerful, he's very emotive, but the emotiveness is, I think, what really sings and shines in this song.
Before the gates of heaven, I'll come crawling on back to you.
It's a song of many sections. It's a song of lower tempos and lower energies. Oh baby, you're the only thing in this whole world. It's very tender, it's very close.
Oh baby, you're the only thing in this whole world that's pure and good and right.
And then suddenly you have these big bombastic notes, and I'm down at the bottom of a pit, a blazing song.
And I'm down at the bottom of a pit in a blazing song.
He just has this massive spectrum of emotion to it, and it really takes you along for the ride with it. The lyrics are poetic and fun. Just again, little like bits that flow into each other really nicely. Just like the sibilance of "Baby, you're the only thing in this whole world." I don't even really know why that is so effective. Even though, to be fair, I think again that's a nice example of a section that is reinforced very nicely by backing vocals that are spaced out. They're not there the whole way through. They're actually not mixed particularly loud in most of the song, actually, but they perfectly bring this more kind of like chilling ethereal effect in some places, and this big passionate effect in other places. I mean, God, I've written a big old page of notes here for this just over the course of listening to this song, and I'm never going to be able to hit it all. There's this amazing moment where he's singing about hearing the toll of a bell. You just hear this bell in the background,
And I think somebody somewhere must be tolling a bell.
And then just the way, again, because it moves in these sections of being faster and slower, when it kicks in again, and it happens like 3 times over the course of it, because it's a long old song made up of sections, but they never really repeat themselves. Like the verses, they tend to, I mean, there's a couple of bits, obviously the pre-chorus and the chorus does come through a couple of times, but generally speaking, they're variant every time. They change up the vocals a little bit. There's a slightly more guitar lick in it this time. This one's now has got piano or backing vocals this time. Everything just builds up and escalates this when you have so many moving parts. And yet also fun because, you know, when the song was made, you know that they weren't really overdubbed. This was like, you know, proper band stuff here, you know. And just the way that they have such a big pool of things, they can just add and subtract in just such a perfect way that it creates this narrative. It just sucks me along. When the bike in the song is revving, I catch myself with my foot on the pedal of the car, and I'm like, oh, better calm down here. We know how the story ends for Meatloaf. It's torn and twisted at the foot of a burning bike, so we want to try and avoid that. And then the ending, he hits this note, this big note. And again, flashing back to my childhood for a second, I can remember being so enraptured by his ability to hit this big at the end that I made it my life's mission to be able to sing that. I used to stand there and I just loop the song back to the last minute or so, and I just sit there in the living room on my own and try and maintain that last note to the point where my sort of like, I guess my breath control got good enough that I could, and I felt like I'd conquered singing at that moment because I could hold this note for the same amount of time that Meatloaf did, definitely without the same power and conviction, I might add, especially for like a 7-year-old. Obviously, I'm emotionally tied to it, but I think the song is amazing for doing that. I think anybody can be pulled in and just run along with the drama of this thing. I've waffled because I'm enthusiastic, but I'm hoping I'm not repeating myself too much, but yeah. This song is amazing. If you haven't heard it, which I'm sure 99% of people who have watched this video, 90% of people on Earth have almost certainly heard it, but you've just got to. I defy you to not subconsciously start speeding up if you stick this one on a car playlist. It's amazing. Meatloaf is amazing. I'm very, very sad that he's no longer with us, but the mark he left on this planet was absolutely worth it. Thank you so much for coming with me on this journey. It's been really, really fun to go through and talk about all this music that I'm really, really passionate about. So I'm really hoping over the course of this video, some of you might have found 1 or 2 songs that you didn't know before, or maybe remembered a song that you were like, oh shit, yeah, that song's actually really good, and have stuck a couple of things on a playlist or stuck an album in your car somewhere, and at the moment where you're really feeling like being euphoric and flying down that motorway, you'll think, shit, maybe I'll give that one a chance. That is the hope for this video. I know I probably waffled quite a lot over the course of it, but hopefully you can tell that it's entirely based on enthusiasm, because I just love this music. I love music, I love talking about music, and hopefully you guys have come along with me. So if you did like the video, I would really, really appreciate it if you were to subscribe and help grow the channel so I can have more time to make stuff like this, because I really enjoy making it. Other than that, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!